Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the regular meeting of the City Planning Commission. Today is Tuesday, February 20th, 2024. My name is Alyssa Olson. I'm the president of the Planning Commission. The city will be recording and posting this meeting to the city's website and YouTube channel as a means of increasing public access and transparency. This meeting is public and subject to the Minnesota Open Meeting Law. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Campbell is absent. Chowdhury is absent. Conley is absent. Emmerich is absent. Jones.
Present.
Meyer.
Here.
Thompson is absent. Wagner.
Present.
Vice President Baxley.
Here.
President Olson.
Here.
There are 5 members present.
All right, we have a quorum. So with that, we'll proceed to the agenda, a copy of which was posted for public access to the city's Legislative Information Management System, which is available at lims.minneapolismn.gov, and there are copies on the corner table by the door. We'll begin with acceptance of the minutes from February 5th. Could I have a motion to accept those minutes? Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes and the minutes are adopted. Our next order of business is to organize the agenda, which again is available at lims.minneapolismn.gov. I will read through the agenda numbers and addresses and state whether each item is slated for consent or discussion. Consent items will be passed without discussion by the board. We'll be adhering to the staff recommendation. So if you agree with the staff recommendation, you don't have to do anything, and the board will pass it as recommended. If you disagree with staff recommendation, you can indicate so by raising your hand or saying something when I get to that item, and we will put that item on our discussion agenda, and you'll have the opportunity to come up to the podium and speak on that item. So, we have this evening, item number 4 is 3030 Nicollet Avenue, application for final plat. This item is on our consent agenda and will not have a public hearing. Item number 5 is 1400, 1406, 1412, and 1418 8th Avenue North. Is there anyone here to speak against, staff is recommending this item for consent. Is there anyone here to speak against staff recommendation for item 5? Okay, we have item 5 on our discussion agenda. Item number 6 is 2214 through 24 Bloomington Avenue and 1510 East 23rd Street. Staff is recommending this item for consent. Is there anyone here to speak against staff recommendation for item 6? All right, seeing none, we'll put item 6 on our consent agenda. Item number 7 is 2750 First Avenue South, formerly 2730, 2734, and 2740 First Avenue South. Staff is recommending this item for consent. Is there anyone here to speak against staff recommendation for item 7? All right, seeing none, we'll put item 7 on our consent agenda. And item number 8 is 3320 54th Street East. Staff is recommending this item for consent. Is there anyone here to speak against staff recommendation for item 8? Okay, we'll put item 8 on our discussion agenda. So to review, we have items 4, 6, and 7 on consent, and we will discuss items 5 and 8. Commissioners, could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes and the agenda has been approved. First, we will handle our consent agenda item that doesn't have a public hearing, and then we'll proceed with items 6 and 7 on the consent agenda that do have a public hearing. So could I have a motion to adopt item 4 on consent?
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, item 4 has been approved. And then next is items 6 and 7 on our consent agenda, and I will open the public hearing on the consent agenda. So if anyone would like to comment on items 6 or 7, you can come to the podium now. State your name and neighborhood for the record and proceed with your comments. All right, I'm not seeing anyone, so I'm going to close the public hearing for the consent agenda. Could I have a motion to adopt items 6 and 7 as recommended by staff?
So moved.
Is there a sec-
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes. So if you were here for items 4, 6, or 7, those items have been completed. And now we'll move on to our discussion agenda for the evening. Our first item is item number 5, and staff is Lindsay Silas.
And members of the commission, I am here with a project at 1400, 1406, 1412, and 1418 8th Avenue North. This is a project by Avenues for Youth. You can see on the site here, or on the screen here, it is currently 4 vacant lots at the northwest corner of 8th and Humboldt there. So the site is located across the street from the Bethune Park, and there are a number of educational, religious, and institutional uses in the surrounding area. The applicant is Avenues for Youth, and they serve homeless youth. They are located in this neighborhood now, just a few blocks away from the site. They are proposing to construct a new 3-story building. Because of the size of the site exceeds the square footage allowed for standard development in Corridor 4, so the applicant has proposed a planned unit development. Planned unit developments are permitted on larger sites as the lot area is determined by the CUP. So that is their first application. The applicant has proposed to use this building. It's going to have beds that will serve residents as an emergency shelter. So an emergency shelter would be serving the residents that are there between 24 hours and less than 6 months. And then a state credentialed care facility, which would be serving individuals staying longer than 6 months. These may be the same individuals who would be staying in the same rooms, but because of the way we define these uses in the zoning code, they constitute 2 separate uses. The building will also include offices and spaces for support staff for Avenues for Youth, and will also include 8 dwelling units that will be transitional housing for youth who are leaving the temporary housing portion. So this site also requires site plan review and a preliminary and final plat required because it is a PUD. There we go. So you can see the aerial view here showing that the site's vacant currently. And here is the site plan. So it is a L-shaped 3-story building. The applicant is proposing a surface parking lot to the west of the building. The northern portion of the surface parking lot is going to be striped as a surface parking lot, but proposed to be used for recreational activities, so to also have some striping for a basketball court as well. The applicant's proposing some significant outdoor space, which is what they are, one of the ways they're meeting their PUD points in the courtyard that is located to the north of the building. And here's a landscaping plan, which is fairly extensive. There are some conditions related to landscaping, but overall there's a lot of landscaping on the site. And these may be a little hard to see on your screens, but here's the first floor plan showing the support spaces and some of the bedrooms. Second floor, which is on kind of that southern wing, is the supportive housing beds, and on that northern wing is the apartments. And then more staff space and apartments on the 3rd floor. And the roof. They're proposing solar panels and a reflective roof. and elevations on the site. So as far as alternative compliance that's being requested, there are a couple of items that are being requested for alternative compliance, and those include distance from the street. The applicant has proposed to set the building back farther than the 15 feet allowed in the code. Blank walls, canopy trees, and parking area screening. For most of these, staff is recommending granting alternative compliance for the building placement and for the blank wall on the north side, and then has condition compliance with the other standards in the code. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Lindsay. Are there any questions from commissioners before we move on with the public hearing? I don't see any. Thank you. So next we'll move on to the public hearing portion of this item, and I just want to explain how that will go. So we're going to open the public hearing, and the applicant can come forward and speak on this item if they would like to. And after that, we're going to open it up to anyone who would like to speak on this item. You will have 2 minutes, and there's a timer over by the clerk. So please keep your comments to the 2 minutes. An alarm will go off so you know when you're done. So I will open the public hearing on this item. Is the applicant here, and would they like to come forward?
President, Commissioners, thank you. My name is Catherine Mears. I am the Executive Director at Avenues for Youth, and I mostly just wanted to say thank you for hearing our application tonight, and I'm here to answer any questions. We are currently housed in a very old building with leaking pipes and challenging HVAC that does not serve our young people who are experiencing homelessness well, and so we are very excited about the possibility of doing something much better for them. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so if there's anyone who would like to come speak on this item, you can come up to the podium, and you can say your name and neighborhood and proceed with your comments.
Good evening. My name is Maria Mason. I'm a lifelong resident of Minneapolis, North Minneapolis in particular. I am very troubled by this whole situation, and I think that it is quite concerning to put a adult homeless shelter across the street from a Head Start, from several elementary schools, from several places of worship. I think we are already struggling in the neighborhood. As it is, I have a social service property right next door to me that has had consistent issues. Somebody was murdered in back of it. I've had people stand in my yard and shoot at each other, shoot at cars. Right now I have 2 bullet holes in my house. On the right of me, another murder, another social service organization. On the end of Humboldt at Plymouth, there's another social service organization. The traffic flow along Humboldt is troubling. I have repeatedly called the city. I put in a request for a traffic circle. We routinely have semis that either park. My house just shakes when they park in front of my house. This area is congested. It's proven unsafe. There's been several hit and runs in the corner where I live. We have constant dumping. I could show you pictures from people who dump their toilets, dump their mattresses, dump their old furniture. It is untenable to think that this commission would approve this proposal. I don't know if I have the lingo right, I'm sorry. Without there being a public hearing. I know there was a conversation at NERC. Most of my neighbors are not involved in NERC. They are used to somebody knocking on their door. When I knock on their door, they come, they want to have a discussion. There are many people who are not okay with this. And I would ask you to give me the courtesy of a little more time.
I'm sorry, we have to limit everyone to 2 minutes.
Okay, Ms. Elamine.
Good evening. My name is Arlene Elamine. I am on the NERC board, North Residential Redevelopment Council, and I live about a block and a half from the proposed site. I'm not really happy that this is going up, simply because I have raised children there and grandchildren there, and the idea that we have young adults that come from various circumstances, it just doesn't give me the safety feel that I would like to have in my neighborhood. I am speaking on behalf of a homeowner who is probably less than a block away from the site, and they asked me to convey that they are not comfortable with this as well. Some of the same things that Ms. Mason had addressed are some of the feelings that we all have. We certainly implore you to have a public hearing so that more members of the community can address their concerns. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can she yield her time to me?
I don't know. Sure, if you want the 44 seconds.
So I've talked to the councilman. I've asked since September for there to be some kind of organization of a public discussion on this so the residents can have a voice. To think that there would be 80-some people that are congested in that very highly, when there's activities you can barely get down the street. I implore this commission to give the neighborhood, give North Minneapolis a chance to have something that the neighborhood is welcoming in, that the neighbors feel is value to the neighborhood and not just something imposed on us. There's no walking grocery store, there's no walking pharmacy, there's nothing within this area when we have so many people in the space. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? If so, you can come forward now. State your name and neighborhood for the record.
Hi, my name is Trias Wells, and I want to, it's the same. I live right 815 Humboldt, which is going to be right in the same, where am I at? Next door. Right next door to and we have the same concerns. So I'm just seconding the motions of what they just spoke upon. You want to take some more of my time? Sure.
I would ask that you not vote on this evening and that you push it back to whatever the lower level is so that the community can all be engaged and have a voice. I spoke with Councilman Ellison repeatedly. I contacted Ms. Omar's office, no response. And Mr. Ellison's office had promised that there would be a meeting. And I waited. Just heard about this past weekend from Ms. Elamine. I think it's unfortunate that the residents of North Minneapolis cannot be engaged more fully in what happens in our neighborhood. Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? We'll do one last call. All right, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, are there any questions or would anyone like to discuss or make a motion?
This is how we do it.
Yep, Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you. For those of you who don't know, I represent North Minneapolis as well on the park board, and you neighbors voiced the concerns that I had. So often in North, my question around this, and I wasn't going to say anything except for listening to people. My question around this is how did it end up being placed in North Minneapolis? And just for the record, I've done some tutoring with Avenues for Homeless Youth. I think they're a wonderful organization, but how did it end up in North Minneapolis and not in some sort of location elsewhere in the city? I mean, I think those of us who live over north recognize that, like, this is a recurring theme. So I don't know if anyone can speak to the details of that or if I'm just asking the room. And then I would consider a motion to table, but I'm curious if anyone can answer that.
That would be a question for the applicant. I know the public hearing is closed, so it would be at the discretion of the chair, whether or not,
it's
you know,
up
I
to you.
believe it's
Yeah.
in North Minneapolis because it's a relocation of an existing facility that's outgrown its current space. I think that's, you know, a
Which is
pretty-
also located in North, correct?
I
Near
think
near
it's
North.
very
I know
So
where. Yeah.
it would
yep.
be relocating
Yep.
that current facility.
I would love to make a motion to table. I recognize that I can easily be outvoted, but I would make that motion.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I have a question, is that,
Go ahead.
and the purpose for tabling would be?
A chance for community members to get to have a public hearing. I don't know the procedure of that because I'm new to this. I'm not the planning commission, but if there could be some form of conversation, I would even be willing to facilitate that given the North Side representatives that I know.
If I may clarify, so this is the public hearing.
Okay.
So we're having a public hearing right now. This is the formal part of the land use application
This is it.
process. So this is the opportunity for people to come and speak and provide feedback. Anything else that happens outside of this formal process is something that's kind of going above and beyond the standard procedures that we require for a land use
Understood.
application. You know, certainly we always encourage applicants to have more community engagement, but this is the public hearing, so this is the forum, and public hearing notices were sent out about today's meeting.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you. First, so I have a couple questions for staff. One, I just wanted to highlight because I thought it was interesting. So in this case, they're seeking, is it alternative compliance on the setback because they're too far away? Like is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to flag that because I wanted to have, you know, further discussion later on this year about setbacks, and I thought this was an interesting case to highlight on that. And I also just wanted to get some clarification about what exactly the Planning Commission has the ability to decide on here. So my understanding is that for these conditional use permits and the site plan review, basically the Planning Commission can decide whether to grant the alternative compliance that you're recommending, but most of the project they have the ability to do by right. So like the Planning Commission could choose to reject elements of it, but they couldn't, like, does the Planning Commission like have the authority to like reject the entire thing?
That's a good question. So the applications before you are conditional use permit to establish a planned unit development. And the planned unit development only requires the 10 points needed to establish the planned unit development, and that is primarily for the lot area question. If this building was being constructed as apartments, it would, I guess it depends on the number of apartments. It may, you know, in that scenario, if it was just an apartment building, it would not need any conditional use permits because this is the built for Corridor 4 district, which allows up to 4 stories by right. So, but because of the specific uses that are being incorporated into the building, and because they are compiling 4 lots rather than say 3, it needs the conditional use permit for the PUD, a conditional use permit for an emergency shelter, a conditional use permit for a state credentialed care facility serving 17 or more people, site plan review, and the preliminary plat, which is really tied to the planned unit development application. So when we think about the conditional use permit applications, conditional uses are things that are allowed in the zoning code as long as they meet certain conditions. So the staff findings that are in your packet have found that the proposed uses meet those conditions. The Planning Commission, if they so felt, could make other findings if there were, one or more findings for each conditional use permit that you didn't agree with the staff analysis. You could propose new findings, and that is the way in which the Planning Commission could theoretically overturn an application. When it comes to site plan review, yes, site plan review is for the building envelope itself, looking at the way that the various elements of the building and site design are complying with the zoning code, and that is kind of where we look at whether alternative compliance is needed, and and then whether or not the commissioners agree with the staff analysis on where to grant alternative compliance. Typically, if a project is close on meeting, all of the standards and requires little alternative compliance, the building is, generally demonstrating that it's meeting the zoning code.
So first, I'm going to say I'm sympathetic to the concerns that people raised today, especially about mattresses and other trash being dumped in their neighborhoods and semis and other congestion. I'd like to see the city and the state do more about those problems. I don't feel that rejecting alternative compliance or these aspects of the application would help with that. I feel like it helps solve some of our problems when we're able to get housing for people who need it. And, I don't think it would accomplish anything to table this because I don't see where it would go from there. And another thing I want to note is, state law requires us to give an up or down vote within 60 days. If you don't do that, then it's automatically approved as is. So I guess with that, I will make a motion to approve item 5 as recommended by staff.
Excuse me, may I have a last?
No, the public hearing is closed.
So it doesn't
No.
really matter
No.
what the homeowners in the neighborhood feel?
The public hearing is closed.
Okay, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
All right. We have a motion. Is there a second? I will second Commissioner Meyer's motion. I know, Commissioner Baxley, you had a question for the applicant?
Yeah, just since this is our chance to kind of hear a little bit more, I wonder if the applicant could come up and talk about why they are remaining in the neighborhood and why this site is important for what they do.
President Olson, Commissioners, we've been in the neighborhood since 1997 at our current location of 1708 Oak Park Avenue North. The new location is about 4 blocks from that location. The majority of the youth that live at our location are youth from Minneapolis, and the majority of them are youth from North Minneapolis. So it was important to our young people as we started talking with the young people themselves who are currently living in our facility and who have lived in the facility in the past. As we started to talk about a new facility, one of the big questions we ask is, where would you want it to be? And the answer overwhelmingly was here in North Minneapolis.
Is it appropriate for me to ask if some of the folks talked about safety concerns, and I'm wondering if it's appropriate to ask about what you may or may not do to address some of the concerns the community had?
Absolutely. Happy to address that. We are staffed 24/7 by staff who are awake and very aware of where our young people are at. We do regular room checks to make sure our young people are where they are supposed to be. And we also have to work with our young folks sometimes on how they can be safe when they're coming home from the bus stop late at night, things like that. So it really goes both ways. And we also, part of the life skills that we're teaching our young people is about how to be good neighbors. Yeah, we've not had issues where we've needed to have the police come for any reason. Yeah, our young people are just very happy to have a place to live, and they do not want to do anything that's going to get them kicked out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The residents are willing to answer questions too, if you have any for us.
Thank you. The public hearing is closed. Kimberly?
So I just wanted to clarify one thing for the record, and I think everyone may know this, but just to say it publicly because it's a relatively new use. So one of the uses going in here that needs a conditional use permit is an emergency shelter. That is not the same thing as an overnight shelter. An overnight shelter is a use where people come, they are in overnight and then out in the morning. So it's less than 24 hours. An emergency shelter is a use where people stay for more than 24 hours, but less than 6 months. So it's semi-permanent housing, and it does not function the same way as an overnight shelter, just in case there was any confusion about what the actual use is here.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Might I ask a question of,
Yep, Commissioner Thompson?
just because I know that there's a full-service community school across the street at Bethune Park, and Director Emmerich isn't here tonight representing schools. I'm curious, was there connectivity with schools on that site location?
Is this a question for the applicant?
Sorry, yes, that's a question for the applicant, or anyone who might know, but I'm guessing it's the applicant who knows.
No, I spoke to the Harvest Prep principal, and Ms. Elamine's relative is on the Minneapolis School Board.
Yes, we've reached out to the school, but we have not actually been able to make a connection with them.
Is the school board aware of the changes?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, commissioners, is there any other discussion? Commissioner Baxley, did you want to say anything? I see you're, okay. All right, I'm not seeing any more commissioners who want to speak, so I guess I will ask the clerk to please call the roll on the motion. And Commissioner Maddox, could you remind us what the motion is?
Motion is to approve item 5 as recommended by staff.
All right.
So that includes item A, conditional use permit, B, conditional use permit, C, conditional use permit, and site plan review.
Thank you.
And the preliminary and final plat.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Meyer,
Aye.
Thompson,
No.
Wagner,
Aye.
Vice President Baxley,
Aye.
President Olson.
Aye.
There are 5 ayes and 1 nay.
All right, that motion passes and that item has been approved. Our next item this evening is item number 8, 3320 54th Street East, and staff is Aaron Hanauer.
Three 54th Street East is located along two goods and services corridors. The proposal is a 3-story, 20-unit building with 14 enclosed parking spaces. The only application that is being applied for is site plan review. The project complies with bulk requirements, setbacks, height, parking, all zoning code requirements from not needing a variance. And we appreciate the applicants. I can show the images of the 3-story building. Appreciate the applicants' continued work with Public Works and CPED on getting a project that does not require variances, and also they were working with staff on the better location for vehicle access. So with just this one application, CPED is recommending approval of the project, and I'm happy to answer questions now or if they come up after the public hearing portion.
Thank you, Aaron. Commissioners, are there any questions for staff? All right, I'm not seeing any. Thank you. I'll open the public hearing for this item. Is the applicant here, and would they like to come forward?
Hello, my name is Michael Kuntz. I'm the architect on the project and here representing the owner, New Life Properties. I'm here for any questions if you need me.
All right. I don't see any questions, but we'll let you know. Thank you. All right. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak on this item? You can come to the podium now. State your name and neighborhood for the record and proceed with your comments, and everyone will have 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Brandon Long. I am the Executive Director for the Nokomis East Neighborhood Association. I'll probably shock you by saying that we actually had talked with the developer, who is a lovely man, about some variances. So I know staff just mentioned that there weren't any requested. The reason that we had discussed this as an organization and with our Housing and Development Committee was that that property has a lot of potential for commercial, which isn't included because there's only the 3 stories. From what I understand from speaking with Dan was that they would need a variance for, I think it was a floor area ratio. I think that it would have been it's a little disappointing in that that's a very prominent or potentially even better commercial and transportation corridor. The other thing that would have been made possible with a 4-story building, which is something that we had discussed with Dan as a possibility, was the fact that the current plans don't include an elevator. And so it's a 3-story building just with stairs. So we've decreased the accessibility of that. We don't have any stated position on this, but we did engage with the developer for quite some months. And basically, when we were sort of investigating what the possibilities were, it seemed that city staff were kind of against any sort of variances. So I suppose I'm just up here to say that that's a little bit disappointing. And I don't know what there is to be done at this point, but it was something that we were very interested in exploring. So thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, you guys can just come up.
Hi, my name is Dan Gilchrist, and I live in the Kuwaitan neighborhood, very close to the proposed project. I also serve on the Nokomis East Neighborhood Association Board. And I just wanted to echo that while the developer has been open to talking to us, as has Councilmember Kosky, it is disappointing that at no point did it really seem like a mixed use for this property was seriously being considered. And I also echo Brendan's concern about a 3-story building without any elevator. I know that is pretty much code, but I think I'm just, my mother's at Abbott right now, and she's having a hard time getting around, and she would not be able to live anywhere but on the first floor of that building. So, but thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? You can come forward now. Last call. All right. Well, I will close the public hearing for this item. Commissioners, is there any discussion? Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you. I do have one question for staff, and this is like a general question, but I figured this is my first real meeting, so I'll ask it. In going through materials, I'm not noticing anything for the parkland dedication on projects like this. Does that come in after the permit is applied? Is that typically to be in our materials here? How does that usually work from city planning staff, so I can get that in my brain?
Commissioner, yes, there is a formula. This project would be subject to that, given those units that are not affordable, and that has been an administrative process. The applicant, I believe, is made aware as part of the preliminary development review process of that amount or that estimate of what it will be, and then as it gets closer to the building permit is when those fees would be paid.
Okay, and so we don't have in terms of the materials we get for this commission, we don't typically get estimates of what that would. I'm just thinking, spitballing for myself as I look through to see the impacts on parks.
I could look at the report, the PDR preliminary development review report that was included in your submittal, if that detail was part of that report. But
okay,
that's where it would be, or else. Correct.
It's not standard procedure, is I guess for every city planner in the room.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Hold on. Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you, President Olson. I actually have a question for staff as well, and Kimberly might be able to answer this. I know I can't lean back. Sorry about that. What is the trigger for activated first floor and mixed use? Is that when it goes to 4 stories, or what triggers the need for mixed use?
Go ahead, Aaron. So our destination mixed use category is one that requires ground floor commercial space or ground floor retail space.
Yes, and thank you. And that the encouragement for commercial was there to the applicant. The applicant was made aware of what the bulk requirements are for the site, and also encourage not to apply for a variance or potentially a comp plan amendment that would need to take place once going higher than what the thresholds are allowed. They applied for 2 premiums, and so they are maxing out the site with their current envelope and current proposal. They didn't have to, maybe I'm speaking too much, but I mean, the trade-off of parking versus commercial or other elements. It was not, it was, the encouragement for commercial was there from staff.
All right. I will just say I'm a Neenah resident, and I'm proud of my Neenah representatives here. I'm advocating for more density and commercial use. I think that I would like to see commercial here, but in general, I will support the project. I would have liked to see less parking, but I understand why people want to do that. And I hope that this site that has historically been underused gets lots of new residents and lots of traffic. So, Commissioner Meyer.
I also wanted to thank the people who came today. I think the point raised is a really good one that people should know. Like, once you hit the 4 stories, then we see more accessibility, and it would be nice to see that. And it sounds like there would be support for the neighborhood for maybe a comp plan amendment for this intersection to see more of that there, which would help generate the customer base to support more commercial. It is hard to push for more commercial, I feel, at this time. In fact, I think we might need to go in the opposite direction because we're just seeing so many vacant commercial properties. Yeah, we definitely want to see that happen when we can. But yeah, the applicant is not really asking us for much, just site plan review without anything big in there. So with that, I'll move to approve item A for the site plan review.
All right, we have a motion. Is there and a second? All right, is there any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Jones.
I approve.
Meyer.
Aye.
Thompson.
Yes.
Wagner.
Aye.
Vice President Baxley.
Aye.
President Olson.
Aye.
There are 6 ayes.
All right, that motion passes. That item's been approved. And that was our last discussion item. I want to welcome our new commissioners. We've got Kelly Jones and Tom Wagner. Thank you for joining us. Are there any announcements from staff?
I also just want to echo your welcome. We're really glad to have you on board, so thank you for being willing to serve the city this way. Commissioner Campbell is also going through the reappointment process right now. So I think he just has one more stop at full city council, and then we're a full commission again, which is great. We will be taking nominations for our executive committee at our March 4th meeting. So the executive committee is our vice president, who is currently Commissioner Baxley, our president, who is currently Commissioner Olson, and our secretary position is currently vacant. That was Commissioner Marwa. So we will be taking nominations at the March 4th meeting, and then I think we typically vote at the meeting following that.
Yes. And I will say I am not going to be running for president, so I've told the existing commissioners, but to the new commissioners, I've served in every leadership role, and I am entering my semi-retirement phase on the Planning Commission, so I look forward to someone else stepping up.
And for the benefit of our new commissioners, so the president obviously chairs the meeting. The vice president chairs committee of the whole, which are the Thursday meetings that we have, and then also fills in for the president if the president's not available. The secretary is the backup to the VP to the president, and also has the pleasure of signing a lot of documents for us, including we changed the plat requirement, but conditional use permits and things that need to be recorded at Hennepin County. But we are getting with the times and typically request an electronic signature for those documents.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Is there anything else before we adjourn? All right. If not, and without objection, I'll declare this meeting adjourned. Our next regular meeting of the Planning Commission will be Monday, March 4th, and our Thursday meeting this week has been canceled. Thank you, everybody.